Hi, Lindsay Koskanemi here. I am a candidate for Iowa Colony City Council Position 2. I have prepared a quick high-level overview to help people understand what their property tax rate is. So diving right in, this is page 4 from the city's adopted FY26 budget. This page is required pursuant to truth in taxation laws because it discloses the percentage of property tax increase, how the governing body voted, and it also provides a comparison of last year's tax rate to this year's tax rate. It's also required to show the adopted tax rate in addition to the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate. And so just real quickly what those mean, your property tax rate is adopted by your governing body, and the no new revenue tax rate is going to be the tax rate that would raise the same exact tax revenue as the previous year. Oftentimes that would actually come in at a lower percentage because the valuation of properties increases generally year over year. Now the voter approval tax rate is 3.5% more than what last year's operational costs were. So there has actually been some legislation introduced somewhat recently that would, if approved, have lowered the voter approval tax rate to 1%. I would not be surprised if we did see that in a future legislative session, but it did not pass in the 89th. That being said, you probably cannot see the tax rate comparison behind the recording, but you can certainly use this link at the bottom to access the city's budget, and it should take you right there. One of the things I'd like to point out is that when you adopt the same tax rate from one year to the next, but you have a higher property valuation in that subsequent year, you will pay more in taxes. So I know there has been some comments made in the public that council did not raise taxes this year. I will show you how that's not necessarily true if you have a higher valuation from one year to the next. What was adopted was an approximate 52 cents per $100 valuation. So at the same property tax rate in FY25 to FY26, if your property value increased, you will actually pay more in taxes. And so this budget cover page is required to show you how much more the city will raise in property taxes over the last year. And here we can see it says that $875,510 will be raised. Says raised. I'm not very good at drawing freehand, but anyway, that constitutes a 28.88% increase over last year's budget. So I just want to make that very clear. Now that does not include new additions to the tax roll. That is provided separately. The newly constructed homes make up an additional $683,000 approximate dollars this year in taxes. But just know that if you have the same tax rate year over year while property valuations are increasing, which I know a lot of us have seen lately, you will pay more in taxes. And so I'm going to show you exactly how that works out, and we'll go over how you can go about protesting your property valuation if you feel it's too high. So here I have taken, if you look in the column for 2024 on the right, I've taken a home valued at $425,000 at our city's property tax rate of 0.519209, or approximately 52 cents per $100 valuation. If you divide $425,000 by $100, multiply it by the tax rate, you get $2,206.64. You take that same tax rate in the following fiscal year, and it is $2,336.44, which is about $130 a year increase. It doesn't sound like much, but we'll go over the different taxing jurisdictions, and if all of them are keeping the same tax rate, you're going to be paying significantly more because we do have several taxing jurisdictions in the city of Iowa Colony. So before I show you the different taxing jurisdictions that we have within our city, I did want to point out that your tax rate is actually composed of two different percentages. As you can see, it's broken out. Those two percentages are called maintenance and operations, as well as interest and sinking. And maintenance and operations supports departments within the general fund that are operational, as it sounds. So your police, streets, libraries, if you have those, administration, those types of operational departments are supported with that portion of the tax rate. In Iowa Colony, it's almost 35 cents per $100 of valuation, and the remainder of that 17 cents you see there for interest and sinking, pays for principal and interest on your debt. So that is how you get the 50, almost 2 cents of property tax rate. Now, it is required to be shown in that format. Our budget document does not necessarily disclose it that way. They do it a little bit differently. They call it the debt rate, and they put it in there with the tax rate on that budget page that is required to be in the budget document. However, most cities, as you see, will break it out in this format. So Iowa Colony has multiple taxing jurisdictions within its municipal boundaries. So I've taken my home value at $339,000 and the different taxing jurisdictions' taxable rates. We have the city, we also have the drainage district, road and bridge with the county, ESD 3, Alvin Community College, your MUD tax, as well as the school district tax. So while you can't probably see my calculations behind the recording, just know that whenever you pay your property taxes, you are not just paying to the city, you are paying to all of these. So imagine if every one of them kept the same tax rate from one year to the next, while property valuations increase, it does make quite a difference. The city is actually not one of your higher ones. The highest, I believe, are the independent school district and the MUD district. MUD districts, again, they're in existence to basically pay back the developer with interest. It is very expensive. As I mentioned earlier, you have a right to protest your property valuation. So your property valuation is determined by Brazoria County, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like that valuation has increased aggressively, specifically over the past 5 years. However, if you have an eligible homestead exemption on your home, and you can only have it on one home if you own multiple properties, but a homestead exemption not only gets you somewhat of a discount, it also limits your property valuation increase annually at 10%. So that does not include new additions or improvements to your property, but you certainly have a right to protest. I would encourage people to do that. I do it every year. You can do a property protest valuation by yourself. You certainly do not need to pay anybody to do this for you. There are a lot of companies out there that advertise this service, and they say that if they get you a discount, your discount actually would go towards paying them. That seems kind of counterintuitive to me. It is very easy, and if you have qualifying reasons, you will get a lower valuation. This property valuation do-it-yourself, my last year's is included above the recording. You can see $375,100 was my assessed valuation, and I was able to get that down to $339,000. I'm happy to show you how to do that. On a high level, you would use that link at the bottom right there. You would input your property information to find your property right there in the red box where it says property search. Once you identify your property, you go to taxpayer portal in the upper right portion of the screen, and then you can start the process, and you do not have to pay anybody. But if you have any questions about that, you can certainly reach out to me and I will be happy to go over that with you. If you ever want to see the document for your city's total property valuation, you go to the same website, Brazoria Central Appraisal District, or BCAD. You can use that link right there on the left. You go to the drop-down menu that is titled Keeping You Current and select Reports. And from there, another screen will open up and you can access citywide reports. This is where you can access those reports. So if you select for the most current year 2025 certified totals for all cities, a very large document will open up and you can find your city and you can see what your total property valuation is for the whole city. When you open that document up, I would suggest using the Control F feature and then inputting the city name, Iowa Colony. So you see that takes you to page 138 of 302. And you can see it's very small on my screen, but it is it's just shy of $1.4 billion. So that's our city's total property valuation. So in summary, I just want to close out with the points we've made here that if the city adopts the same tax rate as the year before, and your property valuation has increased, you will pay more in taxes. So if anybody has told you that the city did not raise taxes, that's not necessarily true unless somehow you have a lower valuation than last year on your property. Again, your property valuation is set by the county. Your tax rate is dichotomized in two different percentages, one dedicated to operational costs, the other dedicated to debt. You can protest your property valuation. That typically does open up around April or May. So you should be looking in your mail for your statement from the county. And that window is open just for a month or two, I think. So it's something you don't want to wait on too long because you will have to gather evidence to support your claim that your property is not the value that they are assessing it at. So definitely be on the lookout for your statement from the county. And since those will open up soon, just be on the lookout. We will be doing, I say we, I'll show you who we is. We will be doing more of these really small, informational, high-level educational pieces to help citizens, especially as we get closer to elections, so that you are more familiar with city stuff, and hopefully you find these helpful. So as I said earlier, a few of us candidates seeking positions in this election cycle will be putting together small informationals on subject matter that hopefully is value added for the community. We call this program the People's Table. It is meant to arm you, the taxpayer, the resident, and the community at large with information to better equip you when you go to the polls, and also just to educate you more on issues that just are not common knowledge. City government is not necessarily sexy to a lot of people, so we make it easy for you. The other candidates I'll be working with are April McCoy, who is running for position 1. Again, my name's Lindsay Koskanimi, and I'm seeking position number 2. Nikki Brooks, councilwoman currently in position 1, she'll be seeking position 2. So we are going to put our heads together and talk about some subject matter related to cities, including legislative changes, urban land use and planning, development matters. We are a rapidly growing city, so developer impact fees are going to be critical. That's also a good alternative to mud districts, and impact fees absolutely benefit the community because it pays for wastewater and water expansion, and we're going to go over how that benefits you, the taxpayer. And we'll go through the whole life cycle of impact fees and explain in detail what that is, because that's something that will come up in the near future. We want to go over economic development topics, such as attracting desirable businesses and why that matters, because we need businesses that people want to shop at, where people want to eat at. So things that contribute meaningfully to the sales tax generation, job creation. These are such important things to talk about, and really just anything else that the community wants to talk about. So if you have any subject matter you'd like to discuss, please hit me up. Reach out if you have any questions about anything I've presented. And thank you so much for your time.